So this is way deeper than probably you probably asked for.
We're going to talk with an ultra marathoner who is headed to England now to participate in one of the most grueling races on the planet. We're going to talk with Ben Light coming up next.
I specialize in a slighter longer distance, a 200-mile distance.
It was like the biggest thing was, I wonder if I can do that. If they can do that, why can't I do that? And this is the tool. And so I started to do random things that I thought were above my current fitness or my current experience level. And I would work towards it. And so you just continue to like raise that bar. So how do you get to a 300-mile event from like running 6 miles?
People ever say, "Are you crazy?"
Oh, it's usually the typical response.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben, you have this upcoming race that sounds impossible.
All these little successful wins start to add up with self-confidence and more courage, to the point where I completely believe that there is nothing that is impossible. We as humans do not have limits. Zero. So many people are scared of failure. Yes, the bigger the goal, the bigger the challenge, the more risk of failure is there, but that's okay. That's what makes it epic.
Yes.
That's what makes people tune in to these amazing accomplishments. I recognize that serving others brings me more joy.
I said it in year one, and it's a statement that I'll live by. The Michael Jordan of 200s
and gives me purpose from a mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical aspect that nothing else compares to it. When she came up to me and said, "Dad, I want to run that last section with you," like, I just remember this weight of, oh my gosh, like, how do I break this to her? How do I break it that I'm about to quit? And so I was running that race for myself. I wanted to run 200 miles. I wanted to be able to say and to tell people that I did that, and myself. And at that moment, my why shifted from me over to her.
The Patina'd Podcast is about the earned wisdom found in pain. It's about chasing failure, catching it, and using that as an opportunity. It's about scar tissue and sinew. It's about stretch marks and dented fenders and refusing to hide them. It's about pushing our insecurities and shame to the forefront instead of behind us. Instead of seeing rust as something that compromises a structure's integrity, we choose to see it as the grit that builds character. This is the Patina'd Podcast.
All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Patina'd Podcast. Today, I have guest Ben Light with me, and so I'm going to do a quick intro, Ben, but I don't want to spend too much time into the intro because if we went over all of the achievements and things that you had, it would take a while. So Ben is an ultra runner. He's a coach and a trainer, and he's completed the Triple Crown of the 200s, and you've kind of found your niche, Ben, in these. It seems like from an athletic performance standpoint, with running specifically, you've kind of found that niche of 200 plus milers, the real long distance stuff before it was cool, and then also some some FKT. So what's the longest run that you've done? I know you got a 268 miler, it looks like, on Ultra Sign Up that you've completed. What's the longest run that you've completed that maybe isn't on record or on Ultra Sign Up anyway?
Well, I guess roughly between, it all depends on how GPS, but like basically just over 300 miles, 310-ish, right around there.
Wow.
So kind of like a 500K. I guess if you want to look at kilometers, make it sound better than 300, make it bigger number. But that would be at two different times. So I had two projects that one I created called the Wasatch Tahoe project, is where I ran the Wasatch 100 and the Tahoe 200 that started the exact same morning, two different states. Completed the Wasatch 100, chartered a private flight over to Truckee to the Tahoe area, and then started the Tahoe 200 a day behind the remaining, the field, and then finished the Tahoe 200. So that one right there came out to just, I think I took took one wrong turn, so I added about 5 miles. So that came out to about 310 miles. And then me and Mike McKnight together collaborated and came up with the Utah Brawl 300 project that we put together in 2020 when kind of things were shut down, and we got a little antsy to do something fun and creative. And so we always thought about running and connecting up the Wasatch, or the Bear 100 and the Wasatch 100, and we connected it with like 100-mile connection piece in between, and ran that straight through and completed that. And that came out to exactly about 300 miles.
Ben, before we get into this, like what it takes to run 300 miles, I want to get into even prior to that, what it takes to begin to start to do something like running. Maybe, because I was going to say do something like ultra, but maybe like, what does it take for somebody to do something like running in general, who are deathly afraid of it? So the way I'm going to lead us to that is I want to ask, like, what happened in your childhood?
Like,
what got you here? No, like, man, I mean, like, so I haven't met one ultra person yet that doesn't have a childhood story of something that happened in childhood. Like, what experiences got you to this point?
All right. So I didn't start running, just kind of give the viewers or listeners a understanding. I didn't start really, really running until late 20s, early 30s. And I say late 20s was incorporating running into my fitness activities to help reduce body weight. Let's say it that way. Okay. Something that little like seeds that were planted back when I was a kid that I can see today had an effect. Little did I know as a kid had an effect, but now I look back and I can easily say that it was something that, like a little seed that was planted that slowly started to grow based on, different things later in my life. One was, my dad was he was in the Marine Corps, 27 years, and he was, for anyone that knows Marine Corps, he was Force Recon, which is special forces for the Marine Corps. 27 years, special forces. And I grew up dreaming of becoming a Marine as well. I wanted to go become a pilot, actually. When I was a kid, I'm an Eagle Scout. I have 4 boys. There's 3 brothers, so there's 4 boys in my family. My dad was always a scout leader just because of his skill set from the military, and we were always going on hikes. There was this one day, and we were hiking up in the Rubicon, full circle to Tahoe 200. We're hiking up, and I grew up in Reno, Nevada, so Tahoe was, our playground. And I remember hiking up, and I had a pack on. We were going to do it's like a 4 or 5 day long adventure in the summertime for the young men, for the scouts. And we just barely started. We were like maybe a mile into the hike. And so you're leaving from the Tahoe altitude and hiking up into the Sierras. And I just remember just like the weight on the pack and everything. I'm just hiking up. And all of a sudden we hear this, make room, someone's coming by, make room, someone's coming by. So we moved over, and this is me as a little teenage little rugrat, this pack on my back, probably complaining the whole entire time. All of a sudden, this older gentleman comes running by up the mountain. And I just remember I was fixated on his calves, how big his calves were. And he was running up this trail that I was having a very hard time hiking up. I mean, obviously I had a good amount of weight on my back, and he was carrying back then there's no like running vests and stuff. I just remember him having a water bottle in his hand. I remember him being older. He could have been like 30 or 40 years old, but when you're a teenager, everybody's old,
Yeah.
And I just remember that. I just remember that. Like, man, that guy is so cool. That is so, so cool. I just think that is so cool. That older guy just running up this trail. Okay. It happened. I mean, I never really thought too much more about it. However, later in my 20s, you would recall, you started to learn about, like, when I lived in Forest Hill when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And that's kind of when I started to get into a little bit of running. And that's when I learned about Western States. I didn't know about Western States until I moved to Forest Hill. And then I thought, these guys running from Squaw Valley all the way to Auburn, that's 100 miles. They're absolutely insane. But I also remembered as a kid, that guy running, I was like, I wonder if that guy was running that, because that would have been in the 80s. And was that guy preparing for that race? Like, or was he just some random guy going out for a run up in the mountains, and he lived in Tahoe? So I don't even know, but I just remember that being in my head. Then when I moved to Utah, so I started running, and then I moved to Utah, and me and my brother, there's the main peak in Utah that most people hike. It's the second highest peak in the Wasatch Range. It's called Mount Timpanogos. So everybody calls it Timp for short. Well, when I moved to Utah, I've always wanted to hike that mountain. So I was like, talked to my brothers, like, let's go hike Mount Timpanogos. Pull up in the parking lot, and we're getting our gear out. And we were putting on these pretty big backpacks, thinking that we might have to do some mountaineering, or I don't know what to expect. I've never been up there. And comes down, running down to his car, and clicks his watch. And I was just like, and I was getting into running. I learned about ultras. And so I asked him, I was like, so did you run to the top? He's like, yeah. I'm from California, and I've heard about this mountain, and, I ran up to the top. And he's like, I'm like, how long did it take you? And he's like, oh, it took me, like 2 hours and something minutes to get up to the top. So, like, I didn't know what, time frame. Anyways. So we start hiking, and we get probably 2/3 of the way up. And then this another old guy comes running down the trail, no shirt, split shorts, two water bottles in both hands. And he's just running at us while we're hiking up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is so cool. Like, I just remember, like, this guy's so cool. And so we stepped out of the way, and I was like, did you run to the top? And he's just like, yeah. And I'm like, well, how long did it take you? And he was just like, it was like over like 2 hours or something like that. And I was just like, that is so cool. And I'm just thinking about it. These are like little seeds in my head planted. And where I'm going with this is, it's all these little things going, I wonder if I could do that. Like, this old guy just coming running down, like, I'm pretty decent shape. I'm starting to run. At that time, I'd done some relays, some like Ragnar fun group relays. I think I ran my farthest distance of like 13 miles in one shot. So like a half marathon, but not an official race, just like a training run. And I was getting into this like running thing, and I'm just like, but man, you go from running to running trails and mountains and understanding what you run, what you hike, how to fuel, how to hydrate. All this stuff was just like foreign to me. But it was like, the biggest thing was, I wonder if I can do that. If they can do that, why can't I do that? And this is the tool. I'm going to tell you right now.
All right, real quick. So in the theme of resilience, I have 2 challenges for you, the listener. The first challenge: if you find this interview insightful or interesting, you really like the content that is coming in, please like, follow, share, subscribe, all of those things within whatever platform you use. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend, talk to your cat about it. Like, let's get this out there. This show is real tiny, and the interviewees that come on this show and share their insight, their wisdom, it can help a lot of people. So the more that it can get out, the better that it can serve the mission that I'm trying to do, which is to normalize chasing failure. So the second challenge that I have for you is to invest 15 minutes of your time into a timeshare opportunity that I have for you. I'm just kidding. I'm not selling you a timeshare opportunity. But what I am doing is I want you to take 15 minutes of your time and invest that into another episode that I have done. Please help me know. What I'm hoping for is for you to come in the comments section and give me some good feedback. Maybe scrutinize me a little bit. Let me know how I can be better as an interviewer to help this show be more palatable for you. But this isn't all about me. How did you like the guest? What were some of the insights that you got from the guest? Leave that in the comments section as well. This is all good stuff. So within the theme of resilience, those are the 2 challenges that I have for you. Help me, help you, help the show. Let's get better. Let's keep growing. Thanks.
For me, that's what inspired me to want more. I wonder if I can do that. And so I started to do random things that I thought were above my current fitness or my current experience level. And I would work towards it and I would execute it. And, sometimes you complete it. Sometimes you might fall short, but then you reassess, reapply what you learned, and then complete it and successfully complete it the next time. And so you just continue to like raise that bar. So how do you get to a 300-mile event from like running 6 miles? It's just continuously raising that bar and having the courage that whatever happens, it's okay. Like so many people are scared of failure or being unsuccessful at a goal or something that they want to achieve. I wonder if I can do that. But I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to not succeed. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to go try to experience that, because what if people knew I didn't, like social media can have such a detrimental effect on somebody's, mindset if they care more about what other people think than what they think. But also social media can have such a powerful tool to help keep you accountable and help encourage you to keep going forward. I think it's how you view social media and how you utilize social media for yourself, and how if you let other people's accomplishments, upset you, or other people's accomplishments inspire you. It's how you view it. It's not everybody talks about social media being a bad thing. And I love social media for the fact that people going out and pushing and doing some awesome things and doing things for others. I mean, however you look at it, you can find both the negative and the positive. It's just what you're looking for. And so, in my ultra running, I just a little bit of like, all these little successful wins start to add up with self-confidence. and more courage and stronger courage, to the point where I completely believe that there is nothing that is impossible. We as humans do not have limits. Zero. There's no limits. It's if the math adds up, if you can figure out a way, it can be done. Yes, the bigger the goal, the bigger the challenge, the more risk of failure is there, but that's okay. That's what makes it epic.
Yes.
That's what makes people tune in to these amazing accomplishments, amazing challenges, because all the stars had to align. Everything had to go right for that person. And when me and Mike go after like FKTs, like on the Arizona Trail, and he's gone after it twice and been unsuccessful, and I've gone after it once and was unsuccessful, and I'm about to try to go back after it again. You learn every time. Every time we've come away with way more knowledge than we started, and we become more powerful and we become more experienced in order to apply that for the next time around. And so this time, going back to the FKT, I have like other ideas on how strategies that I think, I don't know for sure, I'm not 100%, but I believe will help me be successful by applying a different strategy than last time. But you never know until you go do it. So that's what my biggest, what I want to convey to friends and followers is to, one, believe in yourself, that everybody is capable of anything. Everybody's capable of so much more than they could even possibly imagine. It's just having the courage to put forth the effort and put forth the work. I mean, it's going to take preparation. It's going to take experience. It's going to take how many times did a baby fall down learning how to walk? But they didn't stop trying to learn how to walk. And now they're walking and running and climbing and, and pedaling bikes and all this stuff. And that's the same scenario for us as adults and for anybody today is we can accomplish anything we want. You just need to work towards it and find a way, from financial to logistics to physical, to mental, to emotional as well, and spiritual. All of that empowers us to do whatever we want.
Yeah, I think it's so good. So if I have some clients that happen to be watching this, they probably saw my face light up when you mentioned failure and how it's good, because that's like at the core of what I work with my clients on. It's the motto is chasing failure. And so part of it is like how you said, when you have that thought of, I wonder if, that can kind of be the bridging point or the starting point. And I think for some people, they might even be so low where they don't even have the idea of, I wonder if. They're just always, their automatic response is, I know I can't. So then we begin to normalize this idea of failure and how it is a tool. So maybe failure and embracing failure even can be a tool to get you to the point of, I wonder if. And then you begin to find out truth behind that answer too, as you begin to chase failure. And so when I work with clients, the protocol generally is, if their resiliency, or what we call the window of tolerance, their ability to take on challenge is so limited, then we're like, we want your percentage of failure and what you're going to do to be pretty small. Let's say 15, 20% likelihood of failure. Large enough so that you feel successful afterwards, but small enough to where you can see yourself potentially completing it. And then as the resilience gets bigger and bigger and bigger, then that percentage grows and grows and grows. And then all of a sudden you're going out and you're doing things where you're like, the likelihood of me completing this is so ridiculously unlikely, but I'm going to go do it anyway. Like, as long as I'm not going to die, let's go do it. Let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's get into some more inside of yours. I know you have these 4 attributes, right? And so the 4 attributes are attitude, consistency, effort, and patience. And so I would love to just kind of spend some time to let you let you roam around on that for a while and
Oh,
bring
man.
in, I mean, like you probably don't want to be here for the next 3 hours, but, for your sake, but yeah, let you kind of identify how those are particular tools that people need to begin to implement into their life and why.
Yeah. So just everything that we've been talking about is based on your attitude. So attitude in my mind is the number one. It's number one. It's, do you believe in yourself? That's an attitude. The belief. Do you have courage? All these like attributes within the self is your attitude. Do you believe that whatever your goal, like, I wonder if, is it possible? And do you believe that you're capable of achieving it? Your attitude and the belief in yourself. Also, your attitude in the preparation, the attitude in putting forth the work and showing up each day. If you believe in yourself and if you're driven, and how bad do you want it, is all within your attitude. Your integrity with yourself, with your goals, and with your community and your family is all part of your attitude of who you are. It's a spiritual strength. It's a emotional strength within you. And your attitude shines or dims. Okay,
It
attitude
dimmed as your camera went away.
Well, it's telling me that my battery is only at 20%.
Okay.
So we're going to take this podcast until it shuts off. But I apologize not having a full battery. But your attitude is, it's just so important. It's the beginning stage. It's the first thing. You got to, it starts with that self-love in yourself, your love for your family, what's driving you to complete this goal. That's it. Like, when it's going to get tough, like every ultra is going to get tough, no matter how much preparation you put into it, no matter how hard you work towards it, how much physical prepared you are. If you're at the front of the pack, at the back of the pack, if you're hammering in either points, when you're 50 miles in of a 100-miler, you're pushing yourself past a comfort level to go into an event like that. That's going to peel away the human onion, your layers, and you're going to be wondering, why am I doing this? And if things in the preparation process are awry in other parts of your life, when you get into that 50 miles or you get into that very difficult spot of that 100-miler, and you're like, why am I doing this? My spouse resents me for all the time I'm putting into it. My work is about to fire me because I'm dropping the ball. All this different stuff, and is going to be a wear and tear on your emotional and mental, comfort within this. And if those things are out of whack when you're deep into an ultra, you're going to find yourself probably quitting faster than anything. And so I always tell my clients, I was like, make sure things are good at home. Make sure things are good between your wife, that this goal is not just for you, but there's a bigger purpose involved. There's a bigger, it's going to make you a better human. It's going to make you a better father, mother, daughter, whatever. And so when those things get really tested in an ultra race or in an event, that it's like, I'm doing it for my family. It can shift from so many different aspects. And so that's all part of that attitude, is having the right attitude. And attitude is first and foremost is the driving force behind, these lofty challenges and these lofty goals. The next, consistency, is showing up day in and day out, understanding that not every day is going to be a win, and accepting that, and actually not just accepting it and understanding it. It's knowing that it's just part of the process. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. When you're having a bad day, back to your attitude, do you throw in the towel, or do you like, why am I having a bad day? Like from a physical standpoint, emotional and mental, did I not get enough sleep? Did I not eat enough food? It was my calories, right? All the experience, that how we eliminate potential failure within an event, within like hydration, nutrition, all these gear, all these, blisters, gates, where we run, where we hike, all this stuff comes from experience, comes from consistency, showing up for the preparation. That's where we're training, not just to become physically fit, but to know how to mitigate the challenges that we are going to like spontaneously face in the middle of an event that we have no control over. We have no control over what happens to us, but we only have control over how we respond to those challenges. And the tools and the skills to be able to, approach those challenges and to work through those challenges come from practice during consistency of showing up each day through the training process. And that'll make us better prepared to be successful when those challenges arise during the actual event. And then effort is not just showing up, but applying focused effort, actually striving to push past our fatigue level or our comfort zone. If you show up to the gym or show up to like run a particular route every day and you run it the exact same and never push yourself to go a little faster or a little farther, you remain stagnant. You remain the same. So effort is not just doing random work for no reason. It's actually working smarter than harder. Are we pushing 1% farther, faster, or better? Are we doing our speed work, or are we skipping it? Oh, I went out for a run. That's consistency. But I skipped my speed work today, or I skipped my long run, which is one of the most important runs of the week. Did I skip my workouts, or something like that? So effort is actually not just work, but it's actually focused work and strategically applied. Yeah. Patience is probably, I would say, this number 2. And this is the funniest thing. Like, people don't realize that. How many people give up on their goal that they started? You dreamed it up. You believe that you can do it. But how many times do we give up on a goal because we don't see it through, because we want it now and we're not willing to wait for it or put in the work? If you're not successful the first time and you fail, you fall down, you just walk away from it? Or do you get back up, you figure out what went wrong, you learn from it, and then you reapply, and then you move forward? Patience is waiting out, is seeing it through to the end, no matter how long it takes. Patience is enduring to the end. And you need to understand that. I think patience, oh man, it's so important. It's just, I think patience is one of the killers of today's society, is because everybody wants to hit the easy button, like the staple easy button. It's like, oh, that was easy. They want the easy route. They want to take shortcuts. They want to find an easy way to achieve something or get to a goal or success or something like that. What they don't realize is when you start cutting corners and try to figure out a way to cheat the system or to bypass things, you're only cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself out of experiences that you could have helped you grow stronger, wiser, with more experience. And deep down inside, from an integrity standpoint, that you didn't go through the full thing if you cut the corners. And just think about from a trail standpoint, if you're going up, switchbacks, and you just decide to cut the switchbacks and go straight up, kind of a thing, you're losing out on a number of different things. Plus, it's your own integrity. And I don't know, integrity. My dad always told me that integrity defines a man. He's speaking to man, and he's like, integrity defines you. It's who you are. It's your character. It's your word. And so patience is be willing to I don't like the word sacrifice. It's not the willing to sacrifice, but it's willing to put in the time. And time is the most precious thing in this life that we have, because we only have a limited amount of it. And so how important is your goal is based on, are you willing to put in the time and see it through to the end?
Those are so huge. And as I thought, obviously they're going to be more nuanced than just the one word tag letter, right? Or attribute, consistency, effort, and patience. But for you to be able to break it down in that way is huge. So let's move into this next thing. So because what I see in these 4 attributes, what they're developing is character, right? That's essentially within character as a whole, you're going to see all 4 of these attributes and exactly as you define them to be within that. Another thing within character is acts of service, right? Like that's a big piece of it. And no matter who I talk to, whether it's somebody in an addiction recovery or it's somebody in some other realm of life, especially within the ultra scene, there seems to be this common thread that is pulled on that is acts of service or helping out somebody else. Lately, you might be more well known for the acts of service you're doing with Mike McKnight. You might be like by pacing him, right? Like by pacing Mike McKnight, like people are like, who's the guy with the beard pacing Mike McKnight? You're in all of these videos where you're pacing Mike McKnight and he's doing incredible things. And then there you are right beside him. And so it makes me think this guy must have some character, because he has a lot of service to his heart if he's going to be there, forego maybe his own buckle or his own whatever achievement, his own finishing at the finish line, and his spouse to be there to hug him and get that glorious thing. But no, it's like there's this service to another that happens. So talk about that a little bit. I know it's weird to talk about being humble. It's like those two, you can't say I am a humble person and be a humble person. But so let me say it for you then. Like, it seems like you have this character of humility about you where you're able to put somebody out in front of yourself. So kind of talk about that and how that's important for you.
Well, okay, I'm going to see if I can consolidate a lot of that into a relatively shorter answer, which will probably be long-winded. Okay, so one, I have to say, outside of my wife, Mike McKnight's probably my best friend. We have a really good, strong brotherhood relationship that started from the very first 2017 Triple Crown of 200s that we completed together. He was only planning to run the Bigfoot 200, and I was doing the Triple Crown. And when we finished together, I mean, we worked together through that race. I had a couple more 200-mile event experiences under my belt, so this was his first one. So I with that early friendship, I was just trying to help him out to complete the event as well. And then I really encouraged him and told him that he should really consider doing the other 2 races with, and long story short, he did. And we've kind of been just been running friends, I guess. We're just close friends. I mean, we don't live near each other. We're about 2.5 hours away. So we do get together, every few months and stuff like that. And we go on long runs and stuff like that. But it's not like we're neighbors and we hang out day in and day out kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So there's been a great friendship there. So first and foremost, most people, and I'll just throw back, some of that, being humble, but I mean, most people support their friends. Now, surrounding yourself with friends that inspire you and encourage you to, dream big and then to execute big is a special thing. And I feel that me and Mike definitely have that. Like, if one of us comes up with some crazy random goal or idea, like running 100 miles without any calories, I think we have a friendship that it's like, awesome. That sounds like a bad idea. Let's do it. That sounds unique, whatever. And so it's like, like, how can I help? That's my first response is like, he'll tell me, I think it was Mike. I mean, I think I said something to him in 2020 when we were doing a training run. And then he's like, you know what? I've always wanted to run, like the Bear 100 and the Wasatch. And I was like, oh yeah, I've thought about that too. We'd have to do it, the Bear backwards. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm pinging him like a day later, like, my mind's going crazy over this idea. I have ideas on how we can connect it. Let me shoot you over. And it was just like, it's just two people like kerosene on a fire. And that's the kind of thing that we are. It's like, so that said, there's those unique dynamics that's special between me and I'd say me and Mike and our friendship and relationship. The next thing is from my standpoint, because I've actually, Mike is definitely one that I've helped the most. But I've actually helped a lot of other individuals with their goals as well. I thrive. The energy, when someone completes something and a goal and succeeds at something, it's life-changing for them. And to be a part of that, there's a special energy involved. Like, I believe that those like volunteers that go out to a 200-mile race or to an ultra, any ultra, even a 50-mile or 50K, they see people doing hard things and it inspires them. It's not just an inspires, it's the energy. The energy that is around something like that. And I'm very sensitive to energy. It's something different. It's something I don't talk about. I feel I have a special gift where if I come around somebody that is a very positive, uplifting, and I call it light, like people have an inner light about them. And then there's some people that have kind of an inner darkness about them, a negative. And from a magnet type standpoint, I can feel that positive attraction and I could feel that negative, pushback from some negative. So this is way deeper than probably you probably asked for. I'm filled with joy when I'm a part of somebody's challenge and experience that they want to accomplish. There is an energy about that fuels me and it brings joy to my life. It brings purpose. And I love to see people push themselves past a point where they're totally stepping into it's not even discomfort or anything like that. It's the unknown. It's climbing that mountain that they've never climbed before. And in a way, I feel I have an ability to help encourage and to help provide some resources and tools and skills that help them to become successful. And so, yeah, like I know you're kind of saying that I'm this humble guy or helping or, this, person helping him. I also believe I get a lot of satisfaction out of it as well. Like, I'm not trying to say I'm selfish on that side of things, but I recognize that serving others brings me more joy and blesses my life and, gives me purpose from a mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical aspect that nothing else compares to it. And back to time, and I've put this in a post before, and it is very, very important to me, is we have a limited amount of time. Time is the ultimate, you can't put a value on time, and we work so that we could spend time with the family or something like that. We're trying to balance that kind of stuff. And, we only have 24 hours in the days. Everybody has an undetermined amount of time on this earth, and when you take a piece of your time and you share it, you give it to another person in the pursuit of their goal, and they're putting in their time. So you're contributing your time to them. And that is, I think, the ultimate. I just think it's not, and it's not a sacrifice. It's the ultimate showing of love and of respect and valuing them, and from anything like that. I'm having a hard time picking the right words, the words for it, but giving your time is something that's very near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if the greatest gift you can give somebody is your life, then maybe a close second is giving them chunks, pieces of that life, which is time, right? Because you said, there's so little of it within life. And when you provide somebody a piece of that, that's immensely valuable to that individual. But then you get this reciprocation effect, this reward that comes back to you that you didn't even ask for, but it came back to you nonetheless, So yeah, it's beautiful.
There's another thing I'd probably interject in that. I think I recognize we all have talents. Each individual of us are unique, and we have individual talents. And some of them, I feel like one of my unique talents is that I've kind of recognized that I kind of have, and it's something I get joy out of, obviously, is donating my time and stuff like that and serving others. But is within the ultra community, I have a really I'm a very aware of situations and stuff like that. I'm a very observant, and I'm very logical, but sometimes a runner in the middle, and this comes down to a crew chief or a crew standpoint. When a runner is in the middle of something and they're going through they're struggling, sometimes it's hard to recognize what you exactly need. It's hard to pinpoint it. And sometimes a person on the outside that understands what the runner is going through, has been there themselves, but can sit from the outside looking in and see what they need based on past experiences of working with that individual, say Mike, and Mike running into an issue and me assessing, okay, and with a few questions, have you done this, where are you at with this? And then coming up with a strategy. I feel I've been successful helping other people by seeing from an outside perspective, looking in from a crewing aspect, what that person is deficient in and what that person might need. And so I feel I bring a level of, value when it comes to crewing other people. And I really, really enjoy it. I absolutely love being part of a race and being kind of on the outside, but on the inside. It's the best of both worlds, because I get to show up at a race, feel the energy of the race. When I pace Mike, I'm usually putting in 60 to 90, 100 miles with him. So by the time he's done with a 250-mile race and I got 90 miles on my legs as well, you feel pretty good. You got those endorphins going, the serotonin. You got, just like if you ran your own race, you got that going on, but you don't have the stress and the weight and like the overwhelming feeling of, that it's your race. You're just helping somebody else's race. So you get a little bit of everything, and then you get to rest a little bit more, even though sometimes I think crewing sometimes could be harder than actually running the race. Mike got to feel that when we both crewed Yolvisa at Bigfoot 200. Once he got to a point where we could start pacing him, we were flip-flopping every other aid station. So we each put in about 70 miles with Yolvisa at the Bigfoot 200, and he ended up with podium on first place and stuff like that. And I remember Mike, your intermittent sleep, he's like, by the time we were done, we were so trashed. And he's like, I think that was harder than running the dang race. And I was like, I know, it's hard. It's hard to start and stop and run it at a, podium pace,
Yeah.
and then try to get intermittent sleep. Sometimes it's easier just to keep running straight through than having to start and stop.
Yeah, that's one of the things with those longer ones, within the videos you see with guys and girls at Cocodona, when they get their short sleep and then they go from moving decently well into the vehicle or wherever they're going to sleep, and then when they get out, it's just like every single limb needs to wake up. Every
rigor mortis.
Like
rigor mortis.
Yeah. So I imagine it's probably something similar if you're doing pacing. If you're going to go and you pace 30 miles here or 30 miles there, and then it adds up over a period of time. Yeah.
That's a good point. And luckily, most ultra runners too, when they're in the middle of it, have to, that first half mile or mile coming out of an aid station is pretty much a hike. It's basically breaking off the rust, getting all the joints lubed back up, because it only takes a minute or two to kind of tighten up when you're especially if you sit down. That's the worst thing to do is sit down, because then all your hips and your knees and everything starts to harden up.
So when I did that interview with Mike, which I'm totally biased in saying this, I believe it's his best interview he's done. So if nobody's seen it, go and check it out. It's really, really good. And it was just perfect timing because, the first thing was it was perfect timing because I caught him from being about a week away from his family. And so he's missing his family dearly. So we got some good emotional connection to the words that he's saying, and it's almost like you can talk to Mike about his skiing accident and stuff. And he's shared the story so many times where you could tell he's sharing the story for information, but maybe he's not deeply emotionally connected to this moment anymore because he's shared it over and over. But I was able to, because of the timing, there was some, you can feel in his voice when he's talking about his dad and time with his parents is running out and how he's missing his son and you could feel that coming up. And so if you guys haven't heard that interview, go check it out. It was fantastic. But, so you helped me with that behind the scenes. I reached out to you and you were nice enough to reply to my my IG message, and basically I was like, I don't want to talk too much about all the wins and all the great stuff. We'll talk about it, but I want to focus on the guy as a character. How can you help me? And you helped point me in some good direction. So so for this interview, Mike was good enough to return the favor for you. And so so now let's kind of sway into family a little bit.
Okay.
And so I've seen you have some posts regarding your wife. So there's obviously a very close bond you have with your wife. You just said in this interview, other than your wife, Mike McKnight would be your best friend. So your wife is number one, as she should be.
Oh yeah. So for those that don't follow me, or anybody that follows me too, I always refer to my wife as my unicorn. She is a unicorn, and it's mythical creature that's just like beyond amazing. Like no one can compare. And then one thing is I don't think there's I'm not a firm believer in like the only one type thing. Like, oh, I found the one, like she's the one, I believe that there's not just the one. But let me just say this. I found the perfect one for me. And the one I can't imagine anyone loving me more than my wife. Like she shows me so much unconditional love in my goals. She's my biggest cheerleader. I know that there's some partners out there that have a hard time supporting lofty goals because that just means there's going to be some sacrifices all around in a lot of different aspects of their lives, family lives, work, and everything like that. Yeah, to go after something personal. She's like, what do we got to do to make it happen? That's the kind of person she is. Is like, let's do it. Like, how can I help? I believe in you. If you believe you can do this, I believe you can do this too. I want to be a part of it. I'm here to support you, to help you. What do I need to do? What do you need from me? That's her and foremost. And I was married for 15 years prior. Me and Brittany, my wife's name is Brittany. We've been married for 8 years now. So I know what it's like to be with another partner that doesn't quite see life through the same lens that you see life through. Let's say it that way. Not that my ex-wife is a bad person at all. We're just different people. And some things we saw things the same and some things we didn't. But with Brittany, it's like we're in a 3-legged race and we're running in the same direction in unison. And in fact, tied together, we're running faster than as individuals. Everything with her is that much better. I don't like honestly, without marrying her and being with her has changed my life. Has changed my mindset. Everything who I am today has developed with her support and encouragement. I don't think I would be the person I am today without her support, who she is. Like I don't have any qualms of saying she probably made me who I am today. I contribute everything that I've ever succeeded in the past 8 years to her and her support and her love and value. And the biggest thing me and Mike talked about one time, we're like, because we really respect anybody going into these long distance races without support. Like anybody doing a drop bag from start to finish, that's a big deal. Mika, I don't know her, I forget Mika's last name, but who's won the Divide 200. She's phenomenal ultra runner, female ultra runner, and she does so many of her events. There's so many of her events that she does kind of alone and with her own drop bags. So much respect for her. She is just like, I look at her as like this, as an inspiring encouragement of like, I want to do that. Like, I wonder if I could do that. Like, and so like me and Mike have talked about that, but the first thing that comes to our minds is our wives would kill us if we were to go to an event without them. Like in some way, I know Mike's in a different little position with smaller kids and kids in school. So there are events that he has to go without Sarah's support now. Before she was at everything, and now they just have a different dynamic that they're involved with. But like for myself, there's a couple of races in Europe that I want to do, and there's no crew, and so I'm messaging the race officials, the race directors, like, okay, so I want to run your race, and I know I can't have crew, but my wife I'm like, there's no way I'm leaving my wife at home. She has to be a part of it some way. is there any way that she can volunteer at the checkpoints along the way until I finish, that she won't be providing me any aid or anything outside of the crew, like she has to help other people too. And so they're like, I've had a couple of them like, yeah, that's totally doable and okay. And so I'm like, but anything like, there's no way that we're doing an event without her, so it's like, if she can't be involved, it's probably not a good idea. But, and I don't know, like, she's my driving force, she's your purpose. I mean, how much I find myself in between aid stations, knowing that she's going to be at the next one. And that's what's pulling me. That's what's driving me faster, just to see her. And then that's also the detriment too, is leaving the aid station and leaving her. I'll just share. I've been a part of running over 13 200 milers so far, and earlier on in them, we were playing with sleep strategies. So sometimes I would sleep for 3 hours, then down to an hour and a half, and now if you want to get podium, you're not sleeping at all. But one of my favorite points of a 200, this is like ultimate, like I just loved getting into the first or the second night, and I know that I'm coming to an aid station that I'm going to lay down, and I had a Jeep with a rooftop tent, and my favorite thing was to crawl up in that rooftop tent and like cuddle next to my wife. That was her job. Like, once the pack was prepared, everything was done, the next job was to, basically I just wanted her energy. I wanted her right next to me in the bed, because I fed off of her love and support and energy. But at the same time, that was the hardest thing, is to climb out of that tent away from her and keep running. She's my everything. She's my universe.
I don't think I could get 5 feet within my wife, like during a race or like after a race, because of how I smell. Like I didn't like, so kudos to your wife just on being close to you, because it's a pretty grody, it's pretty nasty smelling situation, at least for me. But yeah, that's good.
But,
and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, she hasn't told me, like, well, it maybe that's even a next level up of how much she loves me, is because she doesn't tell me, because I'm a person that's very concerned about how I smell. Like, if I stink, it's going to bother me, and I'm going to need to rectify the situation.
Yeah, I'm kidding about my wife, I think. Well, she'll let me know I stink, but she did on my first 100 miler help take the tape off of my feet, which was like just like the nicest thing like ever, because my feet are just nasty and brutal and blistered and just disgusting. And she sat there on her hands and knees taking that off of me, and I was like, wow, this is love right here. Okay, so let's get into your children real quick. So I know you have a son and a daughter. Just a son and a daughter, is that correct?
I have 2 daughters.
Okay, 2 daughters.
And my youngest is my son.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let me share a quick story about her really fast. When I ran my first 200-mile race, Tahoe 200, 2015, the second year of the Tahoe race, I got to Incline Village, basically Tunnel Creek aid station, roughly mile 140 in the race. And when I was on my way there, I felt destroyed, and I planned to throw in the towel at that aid station. It was farthest I've ever ran, and I was down on myself, and I was happy with how far I went, but I did think I had another 60 miles in me. And I come down into that aid station. My daughter runs up to me before I could tell my crew or anybody that I was planning to drop. And she goes, "Dad, I've been looking at the race manual, The last section of the race is 17 miles, and I want to run that section with you. She's a freshman in high school. It's September, so she just started on the cross country team at the beginning of the summer. So she's been running all summer, and she's been putting in the work. And I'm one of these dads that I really have like this little trigger effect where those parents that push their kids into sports that they did and that they want their kids to do, it kind of triggers me. So I've been one of these dads that encourage them that they need to have an activity that keeps them physical from a mental health standpoint and a health standpoint, but I'm going to let them decide what they want to do. And if they want to try a different sport every year, no problem, whatever. That's even better to figure out what they have a passion about, what they love. And so that's a big thing for me, is not to push them. So she joined the cross country team all on her own. And when she came up to me and said, Dad, I want to run that last section with you. Like, I just remember this weight of, oh my gosh, like, how do I break this to her? How do I break it that I'm about to quit? That last section's not going to happen. And so So I was running that race for myself. I wanted to prove to myself that I could run around, Lake Tahoe. I wanted to run 200 miles. I wanted to be able to say and to tell people that I did that, and myself. And at that moment, my why, the purpose of pushing through the pain, shifted from me over to her, and not disappointing her and her excitement and the energy that she had. And this look of a daughter looking at her dad in this proud manner. I just unloaded my pockets of my trash, put in new pockets. I grabbed some food, filled my bottles, and grabbed my next pacer and just left. I didn't tell my crew anything. And this new energy came over my entire self. I ran that next 60 miles like there was nothing wrong. Like, I think I ran that next, to get to her, the next 40 miles. I think I ran the next 40 miles faster than I ever ran any of the other 40 miles, even from the beginning of the race. I had a new, renewed energy about me. My body didn't hurt like it hurt before. My feet, it just, the drive numbed my pain. And I remember coming down, you at the end of the last 50K of Tahoe on the original course is pretty stout in elevation. You go from lake level up over a pass, back down to lake level, then back up over a pass. And it's a pretty stout 50K, the last 50K of the Tahoe 200 at the original route. And I remember coming down over that first pass to get to the aid station. It's the Stephen Jones aid station for the last one. And I just remember bawling my eyes out just because of the whole scenario of me wanting to quit, in me in pain, and then having this new renewed energy, and then having this opportunity to run the last 17 miles with my daughter. And at this time, I was in the process of working through a really bad marriage, and my kids were everything to me. There's a lot of resentment from my ex wanting me to, and my kids were all there. I brought my kids to the race and everything. And so running that section was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And it's what shifted. It's another seed that planted in my mind that your why, if you can find the, it, if you can shift your why from you to another person, that act of service. And that's one of the reasons why I've always tied a lot of my challenges to an individual or to an organization or something bigger, more than me. It's it strengthens us mentally and drives us through the depths of hell that we think that we could never push through when you're doing it for someone else and when someone else is depending on you. And so this was the seed that was planted, is basically that experience of shifting my why from my daughter, or from me to my daughter, and that experience of running through and to be able to cross the finish line hand in hand with my kids was undescribable. And then to see her, she talked about doing an ultra for years, and she planned to do that a race earlier, and she ran into some physical issues. And she's a young woman that going through college and lots of things. It's really hard to probably be able to devote that much time into training. But to see her like go and to do it, and to do it on her own, like I did pace her. I just, I helped with her training plan, but it was something that she put in the work. I stood back because it was important to me not to push her. I wanted to encourage her. I wanted her to do it for herself, but I didn't want her to do it for me and for like my expectations, or to feel that she needs to do it to be connected or closer to me. And so when she crossed that finish line, and she's already has a 50-miler planned for this fall, and it was a very proud moment, And now I have my son, who's, not really into running, but he's just like, I want to run a 50K, and I'm like, well, it's totally up to you. You make the decision and I'll support you, but it has to be your decision. So it's been a story that I share in my speaking, is my daughter's experience, because that ultimately was an eye-opening experience of how your why can be a lot stronger than you've ever, and can take you through anything that's placed before you.
Yeah, such a beautiful story, Ben. Thanks for sharing that, man. Yeah, and so for her to now kind of, be into this again without your pushing, but I'm sure your modeling of this is what doing hard things looks like, probably makes it more intriguing, to her, and then by proxy to your son. And not that doing hard things has to be done through running far necessarily. It could be done through many different ways, but yeah, so that's beautiful. That's beautiful that then I'm sitting here listening to you share that story, and I'm resonating with it in times when like I've had success with long distance runs, and then when I didn't, when I DNF'd on a recent one, and it was a shifting of why, and a shifting of in the wrong direction, right? Like in my head in the wrong direction, that got me there. So yeah, just beautiful stuff, Ben. So for the sake of time, I'm gonna end it on that, because is there anything better to end it on than what you just shared? So yeah, I really appreciate having you on, Ben, man. It's been an honor to have you on, and thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for, digging deep and bringing out some emotion, and hopefully your listeners, or, it touches somebody and inspires them. And I think our ripple effects, our lives, so many people want to see like the difference that they make, like they want to see it immediately kind of thing. If you could understand by just living your life and living it in a way and a quality that you can inspire and have a ripple effect in so many other people's lives for so many years, that's ultimately the way that we're going to change the world, is through each and individual, like every individual. If every individual could start to create a positive ripple effects by just the way that they live their life, that's the way we can change the world.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Ben. Again, thanks for coming on the Patina'd Podcast, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Patina'd Podcast. There are other shows that emphasize resilience, but my intent is to normalize personal development through embracing challenge by interviewing the common man and woman, the person that you and I can relate to. If you are someone who wants to soak up the insights of normal people doing extraordinary things, please subscribe. If you know somebody who is overwhelmed by fear and complacency, please share this podcast with them. I'm your host, Kenny Hill, and I run a private practice near Sacramento, California called Recovery Hill. My website is in the description tab along with my social media links.